a man on his hands and knees, a woman lying beneath him on a hotel floor, her face erased by federal censors, but his fully visible, fully identifiable. Today, that photo is at the center of a demand that's shaking two governments at once. Lawmakers in Washington are calling it evidence. Survivors are calling it proof. And now, members of the United States Congress are urging the FBI itself to open an investigation, not into a stranger, not into a nobody, but into the brother of the King of England. This is a story of how a royal's darkest secret ended up in a federal file box, and why, even after his arrest, his title stripped, his home taken away, the walls are still closing in. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why insiders say Andrew Mountbatten Windsor now believes there is no coming back from this. Not ever. Andrew was the Queen's favorite, a Royal Navy helicopter pilot who served in the Falklands War, second in line to the throne at birth, handsome, decorated, adored by the tabloids. He had it all, the title, the palace, the promise of a golden royal life. But somewhere along the way, that golden prince made a friend, a wealthy American financier named Jeffrey Epstein. And that single friendship would eventually cost him everything: his title, his home, his freedom, and very nearly his family's crown. Andrew and Epstein walking together in Central Park, iconic 2010 photo. Ghislaine Maxwell archival footage. Virginia Giuffre photos. For over a decade, Andrew and Epstein were close. Private jets, island getaways, dinners at Buckingham Palace itself. Then came the accusation that would haunt him for the rest of his life. A young woman named Virginia Giuffre said that Epstein and his associate Ghislaine Maxwell trafficked her, and that Andrew was one of the men she was forced to have sex with. She was 17 years old. Andrew denied it, again and again. In a now infamous 2019 BBC interview, he tried to explain away a photo of himself with his arm around Giuffre's waist, Maxwell grinning in the background. He suggested it might have been faked. He said he had no recollection of ever meeting her. The public didn't believe him. And in 2022, without admitting any wrongdoing, Andrew quietly paid Giuffre millions of dollars to settle her lawsuit. Case closed, also the palace hoped. But Virginia Giuffre wouldn't let the world forget. And even after her tragic death, her voice would come back, louder than ever. In April last year, Virginia Giuffre died by suicide at just 41 years old. Her family said her fight for justice had cost her everything. Then, months later, her posthumous memoir, Nobody's Girl, hit shelves and reignited the scandal all over again. Public outrage exploded. And King Charles, desperate to protect what was left of the monarchy's reputation, finally did what many thought he never would. He stripped his own brother of every royal title he had left. Andrew was no longer Prince Andrew. He was no longer His Royal Highness. He became simply Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, evicted from Royal Lodge, cast out of the family he'd spent his whole life serving. This year, the U.S. Department of Justice did something no one expected. They released more than 3 million pages of Epstein's private files, over 180,000 images, thousands of videos, and buried inside that mountain of evidence were photographs that stopped the world cold. Images showing Andrew on his hands and knees, crouching over a woman lying on the floor of what looks like a hotel banquet room. In one, his hands rest on her stomach. In another, he stares directly into the camera. The woman's face was blacked out to protect her identity, but there was no mistaking the man in the frame. Alongside the photos were emails. One, from September, shows Epstein asking Andrew what time he'd like to meet, and requesting private time. Andrew's reply? He offered dinner at Buckingham Palace itself. Lots of privacy, he wrote. And it wasn't just photographs of questionable behavior. Buried in that same file dump was something far more dangerous for Andrew, proof, investigators say, that he may have broken the law. For a decade, Andrew served as Britain's official trade envoy, a taxpayer-funded government role. And according to emails uncovered in the files, he may have forwarded confidential government briefs straight to Epstein. Reports on trade missions to Hong Kong, Vietnam, Singapore, even a classified brief on rebuilding Afghanistan's Helmand province, sent to a convicted sex offender. This wasn't just a friendship anymore. This was, potentially, misuse of public office, a crime that in the UK carries a maximum sentence of life in prison. On his 66th birthday, of all days, police showed up. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the first senior British royal arrested in nearly 400 years, was taken into custody. Officers searched his properties. He was released hours later without charge, but the investigation was far from over. U.S. Congressman Thomas Massey, one of the loudest voices pushing for the Epstein files to be released in the first place, didn't hold back. He called directly on FBI Director Kash Patel and Attorney General Pam Bondi to act. His message was blunt. Now we need justice in the United States. Other lawmakers piled on. One congresswoman pointed out the obvious double standard, asking, if a prince can be held accountable, why not a president? Because Epstein's orbit, as we know, extended far beyond royalty. Meanwhile, back in Britain, former Prime Minister Gordon Brown sent letters to 6 separate police forces, demanding they investigate whether Andrew used taxpayer-funded military flights just to spend time with Epstein. The pressure was mounting from every direction. And that's when the twist nobody saw coming happened, not from investigators, but from the public itself. This month, during King Charles's traditional Holyrood Week in Scotland, a celebration meant to showcase the monarchy at its most dignified, protesters showed up outside the Order of the Thistle ceremony. Their signs weren't about Andrew directly. That's the twist nobody in the palace wanted. This scandal is no longer just about one disgraced royal.